Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Gracious. Good morning to you, good people. It's your girl KB. You know what I do, and you know why I do it. It is Friday. Yay! It is December 12th, 12/12. And as James Brown would say, I'm about ready to get up and do my thing. Let me just talk briefly about this. I often speak on this subject. Haven't in a while, but I'm going to revisit the conversation today. We going to learn today, as some of those angry sisters like to say. We going to learn today. I talk about losing my religion. I was raised Baptist. And for a very long time, I held firm and fast to Baptist traditions, church protocol, even church language. And by church language, you hear it more from the old church mothers when you ask, basically, how you doing? I'm blessed and highly favored, baby. Things like that. But I want to say, as I study the Bible and as I move toward, ordination, that flame went out. I'm going to put it like that. That flame went out. And after my mom passed, I really got into the Word, but I got into the Word in a different way. I looked at it from a more, I want to say, humanistic view. And by that, I don't mean, attributing deity to individuals. I was looking at the divine impartation. Is that a word? Or the divine in us. That God piece, if you will. I still consider myself a Christian because I know what God has done for me, and I know how God has moved in my life. And, if I had 1,000 tongues, just couldn't tell it all. There's a contemporary gospel song. He kept me in the midst of it all. And it has that, I want to say, deep call and response kind of thing, and moan, where you just feel it, where your soul is moved. And that's how I feel. I've survived cancer. I've been cancer-free for, it's going on 17 years now. I survived a diabetic coma. I understand how God made a way out of no way growing up. There were times where there was no food in the house. And I'm not talking about not having any food that I wanted to eat or that I liked. I'm talking literally. But my mother saw to it that we never went hungry. Some of you grew up with parents like that, or that one parent, and that was my mom. My father could care less. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. My father could care less, and I need to emphasize that. And it's particularly appalling I'm going to share this. When you know you've had like rice and potatoes because it was filling. You know, my mother always kept those things, rice, potatoes, and beans, because it was filling. And he would come in with a steak. Now, he'd set it all up for slow cooking. But let me go back to showing some level of respect. He would ask one of the kids to go turn it, to check on it, to report to him what it looked like. He would sit and eat that steak in front of kids that maybe just had rice and beans for dinner. And he would offer the gravy after he finished. That's the kind of man my father was. And I don't even know if I could properly say or properly call him a man. But I digress. You know, I started talking about losing my religion, so let me get into how this connects. We talk about Christian values. We hear that a lot. I mean, a lot. But I'm going to tell you about the kind of Christians who are spouting this rhetoric. These are the white Christian nationalists who have no place for the majority of their congregation. And their actions show contempt. Now, if you hold them to the standards set by the Bible, they are nowhere near what they're telling you you should believe. Now, you've heard the term the Bible Belt. And I'm going to tell you where those states are, so you just get a brief overview of, you know, the collective thought of the white Christian nationalists. Okay? States are Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, and here are the other states that only parts of are considered Bible Belt. Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, New Mexico, Ohio, of course, Texas, Virginia, yes, and West Virginia. Okay, now, many of the states that I mentioned were also considered Confederate states. Okay. Hence, white Christian nationalism. See, we wrapped it up in a neat package of Christianity, but we still held on to the essence of the hate. And in this sickness, hear me good, in this sickness, in this teaching, in this repressive atmosphere, okay, this controlling environment, this sterile experiment of religious hatred, I'll call it what it is, there's been some very interesting things happening. I'm going to focus on Indiana right now because there's a couple of news stories that are, man. Okay, the first one I stumbled across the other day. DoorDash driver delivered some food, sat it in the delivery area, and sprayed it with what people believe was pepper spray. Now, I don't know if this particular individual claims any kind of religion, but I know that that state does. Okay? Yeah. I also have a story about an individual was a basketball player who played ball with my brother, who was asked to come to Cali from Indiana, recruited, and he was from Indianapolis. He always referred to it as Naptown. Okay, my man was from Naptown. He referred to the coach from Notre Dame, a renowned coach, but he also had a nickname within the black community, No N-word Digger. And there's Coach Digger Phelps. Okay, I don't know if he was related to the Fred Phelps family, but okay, you get the gist of where I'm coming from. Okay, so that is kind of like the mindset, the framework, the foundational behavior that's happening in Indiana. Now, I'm gonna get more specific. 2 pastors. One older gentleman was recently arrested, stood trial, or I want to say was in the process of standing trial. He was 54 years old. And pastor of First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana. Inappropriate behavior with a minor. And I'm just going to say inappropriate behavior, but you know what I'm talking about. The next is the son of a pastor. This is the next story. Who lit up the internet, investigation teams, the internet spies. And I'm not mad about this, because I'm glad they have this watchdog service. They described the pictures that he had on his computer as the most horrific that they had seen in a very long time. Now here's the kicker for me. This young man, I think he was 24, had pornography on his computer that involved children. Okay, and was posting. But not only did he have that, he had videos of his parents in compromising positions. How does that happen? And when the father, who's the pastor, was asked about it, he said 2 words: wicked sin. And as a parent, took no accountability or even acknowledgement of the fact that he raised a wicked sinner. There's a sickness in our thinking when we get into, I want to say, worshiping the religion instead of the Most High.